Hello, my name's Joe Strait. I'm a psychologist with Wakai Waian Healing Service. This video is about the process of conscious creating. Now, the outcome from conscious creating is creating the life that you actually want. And how we do this is by being aware of what you're thinking and what you're feeling and learning to manage it. Now, this approach uses the law of the universe, or the different laws of the universe, as the basis for why it works. And these laws are fundamentally, we are all naturally creative beings. Now, we get this from source energy. Source energy is what I use to describe that fundamental energy which is in all things. It's the life force, it's the ongoing consciousness which keeps everything going in the universe, and that all of us have a slice of this source energy, our own personal piece, which we call our inner spirit. So, and that inner spirit is part of the ongoing urge to be creative. The universe is in a constant state of expansion and creative renewal, and we're significant players in that. Now, the next part of it is free will. We don't live in a universe where things are imposed upon us. We live in a universe where we can make choices about the circumstances we find ourselves in, and we can respond to it freely to the best of our ability under those circumstances. The next one is this universe has contrast or polarity. By that I mean we understand meaning because the opposite exists. For example, we understand what bad means because we experience good. We understand what height is because we understand the concept of shortness, tall and short. We understand the concept of love because of the absence of love. So that's polarity. Another big law of the universe is the law of attraction. Now, the law of attraction manages energy. And what's particularly important in terms of conscious creativity is that every thought that we have is energy, and every thought has its own vibrational frequency. And the vibrational frequencies go from really high to really low. And the law of attraction will send energy which matches the vibrational frequency of our thoughts, regardless of what they are. There's no moral judgment about allocating energy. It just simply allocates energy which matches the vibrational frequency of our thoughts. And the energy which is sent comes in the form of people, circumstances, and events. So if I'm thinking thoughts of a high vibrational frequency, that means that the emotions that I've got associated with those thoughts are up at the emotional ladder end of love, clarity, compassion, optimism, expectation. If I've got negative thoughts, they're equivalent in a feeling point of view or an emotional point of view are feelings of anger, despair, depression, frustration, and so on. Now, everybody has an overall vibrational attraction point. What that means is, if I'm a person, for example, who has thoughts which are generally of an angry nature, well then our overall vibrational attraction point is one of anger, and so we attract people, circumstances and events which match the vibrational level of anger. And what happens then is, because we're getting people who annoy us or frustrate us or make us angry, this reinforces the reality that the universe is a place which makes you angry. But what really happens is that the thoughts that we have send out signals where we attract people, circumstances and events which match anger. On the other side of the coin, if we're positive in the way we think, if we're optimistic, if we're always seeking better ways of doing things, if we're compassionate, our vibrational attraction point is much higher, and we attract people, circumstances and events which match that vibration. Now this is really important when it comes to setting our goals, because the way conscious creativity works is we set goals and we anticipate whether they're going to be achieved or not achieved. Which brings up the point that every goal or desire is like a two-edged stick or a two-pointed stick. At one end of the stick is the thought anticipating getting the goal, and at the other end of the stick is the thought of doubting getting the goal or observing I haven't got it yet. Now, they're both thoughts and they've both got different vibrational frequencies and they attract different energy. So that when we're going through life and we're setting goals and we're thinking about anything really, we need to be aware of the fact that all thoughts have got two different ends to the stick, and that we need to be conscious of that to ensure that we're not focusing on the absence of what we want, we're really focusing on what we want, and then we'll attract the right energy. So how do we actually make this all work? There are three major steps. The first one is we need to get into the right thinking framework. Now, for First Nations people here in Australia, there are two major thinking frameworks that we've got available to us. The first one is the 232 years of being colonised. Now, in this thinking framework, we're victims, and we've been done over in just about every way you can think of it. And the overall attraction point, if we're sitting in this framework, is being a victim, anticipating bad things continuously happening, seeing bad things happening to our family, friends, country, or our culture, and that's a very difficult framework to live in. What we need to do is to flip out of that and get into the traditional framework, which has been around for 60, 80, 100,000 years, which is full of wisdom, it's full of connection, it's full of balance, and we need to actively shift ourselves into that sort of thinking framework. Because this is really important when it comes to setting goals. If I'm in the traditional thinking framework and I'm setting goals, then I naturally have an expectation that good things will happen. I have an expectation that I will experience connection, I will experience my ancestors and my inner spirit guiding me. I'll have expectation that Mother Earth is nurturing and looking after me. I'll have an expectation that everything in the physical plane is connected to me. Whereas if I'm setting goals in the 232 years of being a victim, the sorts of goals that we set are, let's just get the health system up to the level of everyone else. Let's try and get some decent housing. Let's try and get some jobs for our people. Let's try and reduce incarceration rates. Let's try and get some fairness in the system. Now, these are all worthy goals, but they're not of the same high level as when we set goals in the traditional thinking framework. They're all important things to achieve. what's crucial here is that we don't spend all our time in that lower level framework, because we just don't achieve the goals we really want. We need to address them, but we address them in balance. And if we address them from the framework of traditional thinking, where we're connected to spirit, we're connected to country, we're connected to family, we're connected to our own bodies, we're connected to community, it's a totally different power that we've got. It's a totally different energy which flows through us, that gives us the inspiration, the thoughts, the nudges to solve problems. Now, the third key point about this is, well, that's all very good, but how do we actually get from a framework of thinking of 232 years of being victims, when it's so overwhelming, when it's in our face every single day? How do we get out of that and get back into our traditional thinking framework, where we are connected and we feel the power and the influence and the love of our ancestors flowing through us? Well, there's at least 3 ways we can do it. And the most powerful way is through traditional meditation. Now, meditation, from a traditional point of view, is quieting the mind, so that we are no longer hearing our own thoughts. We are making our mind still so we can hear the prompts, the urges, the inklings, the inspirations from our own ancestors, from source energy. It's when we've got a quiet mind that we hear them, that we can listen to them. And these thoughts don't necessarily come in the process of meditation. They often don't. But they come to us during the day. And when we become conscious observers of how our inner spirit, our ancestors, are communicating with us, we just see that it's communicating with us all the time. Another way of doing this is through appreciation. One of the simplest ways to have appreciation is to go outside, go back on country, just go outside in the bush, the garden, and just appreciate Mother Earth. Appreciate the dawn, appreciate the sunset, appreciate the trees, appreciate the breeze, appreciate the birds, appreciate everything, the rocks, the soil, because it takes virtually no time at all to get a real shift in feeling and to get that beautiful experience of connection. And the third way we can do it is through contemplation. And when I say contemplation, that is the process of deliberately thinking about our traditional cultural values, of sharing and caring and respect, of thinking of ways that we can improve upon the lives of all that are dear to us. And through that process, we are connected as well. It's worth it, because when we take back our own power, when we don't rely on others to try and fix our problems, but we look to ourselves and into our inner being and to our ancestors, things really start to happen. And that's what the process of conscious creativity is all about. Now, there's written details about this on the website. Thank you very much.